Okay, well, all these train stations in Western Canada have been built back in the late 1800s, and if you didn't have a train station, you didn't have a town. So they determined, based on the requirements of the railway, where the stations were going to be, and the towns all built around them. And that's where your actual growth came from, and a lot of the rationale for putting them in certain locations had to deal with resources. For Camrose, for example, it was coal. There's a lot of coal underneath Camrose. So that's what they wanted to do. Same in Lethbridge. Coaldale, just outside of Lethbridge, a tremendous amount of coal. That's what they wanted. Not only could they use it for their own purposes, for the locomotives, but they can also market it at the same time. So it became a cash revenue as well for the benefit of the railway. Probably getting public approval to do that. There was a lot of controversy. The railways at the time, when they had their abandonment process underway, they would close down these stations. They're no longer profitable, and they didn't want to have any liabilities associated with that, which meant if you had a property here, you had liabilities, and you also had taxes. And between the railway station and the grain elevators that were in the town, they were probably the biggest tax revenue the town had. So a lot of towns suffered when they closed down. The grain elevators had to leave because they could no longer haul the grain by railway car. And train station, or the train corporations, wanted to come in and take it down, no liability, gone, nothing responsible. But the town wanted to keep it, so the arguments went, well, who's going to be liable for this and who's going to be liable for that? And then, of course, you got once it was given or donated, as the case may be, to the town, then it was a matter of getting the volunteers to rebuild it as a part of history, because, as I mentioned earlier, without the train station there, the town would not have been there itself. So it's actually the station that gave birth to the town. It's the origin of the town itself. So this was closed in 1988, and it was built in 1911. And it was originally, the original rail line was to be a little further east of here because there was coal there. But then they discovered the coal was more plentiful and more easily accessible here. So they moved it from the original line over to where it was today. And there's also water here. As you're coming into Camrose, we have what they call Mirror Lake. That used to be the reservoir for the steam engines, and that came out of Smoky Creek. And it all had to have all those elements together, or the railway wasn't interested in doing it. Well, it's interesting. The young people want to learn about things. The old people want to talk about the experiences they had with those things. So there's a kind of a complementary interest in the people that do come to our station here, and any station, I guess, across Alberta or any province that they happen to be in. So I think it's important to let people know that this is where the original roots, as I said, this is what gave birth to the town. And it kept the economy going, it built the economy. The stores that are here today, where many of them were here back then, or grew and developed from that. So we try to make it as interesting as we can, as original as we can. Everything in here is authentic. It's an antique in its sense. And some of it is not common knowledge as to what it might be, especially when it comes to the maintenance of way materials, like in keeping the tracks up, and all the hammers and all the apparatuses that were used to maintain the tracks and to do maintenance and servicing on the trains. A lot of that stuff was just had its only purpose was for the train, or for the station, or for the track, and you wouldn't find it anywhere else. So it's of interest to people to, oh, that's what that's for. Well, that's how they did that. I think a lot of the stuff has to do with the mechanical of it, because they have special tools that were made strictly for the track. How do you take a 24, 30-foot piece of steel, your track, and carry it down? How do you do that? How do you settle it into the ground? And because we're an agricultural community, there's a lot of interest in the mechanics of things, because it's farming. And they're surprised at that. Some of the track apparatuses that they use to go down the track to check the integrity of the track, because it sun kinks in the heat of the summertime, steel expands, and the rails will sometimes go up like this. So you get a sun kink, they call it. And the section crew would be the ones that would get on what we call the speeders. They would go down the track and check the integrity of the track in advance of trains coming. Because if there was a defect and the train got into it, you could have a derailment and then you got a big problem. So they would check that. If anything needed fixing, they had the tools that they could fix it, do a patch up, and away they go. It's a heritage. It's a part of everybody's life here. We have farms around here that are 4 generations that go back to the time when the railway first came here with their great-grandfathers, for example, and they're still farming. The same family is still farming here. So that's important, and it's a draw. Like all small towns are always looking for an opportunity to generate extra revenue. And if we've got a museum here, we can draw people in. Maybe they stop over at one of the restaurants in town when they have, before they leave, have lunch or whatever. Or maybe they stop and get a cold beer in the bar. It's all how you work the business of the town to benefit the town. And this is a good part of it. It's one that would be missed, I think, if it didn't have it. Because so many communities had lost their train stations because the railway was too quick to come in and take it out, or they hadn't thought of preserving it. I've heard a lot of them have regretted not having that same opportunity to have that exist there today. I would say the happiness of the people that were here, because it was the only way of travel at the time. And if you're going to go anywhere, you had to get on the train. If you're going away to visit your grandparents, for example, here from Camrose to Edmonton, or you're going farther afield on a holiday, it's exciting. When you come back home, you've got people here welcoming you. So I think it was a happy, happy place because it gave experiences that you could not get anywhere else at the time. It just didn't exist. It's like your first airplane flight. It's wow, it's fantastic. Well, your first train ride, everybody would remember their first train ride. Or when they went to Edmonton to do shopping, they used to just take the train, go to Edmonton, go to the big stores, do their shopping, and come back at the same day. That wouldn't be possible without the train. So I think a lot of that, and some funny things, some little quirky things, like here in Camrose, they tried to steal the safe, and it's a big, heavy, solid safe, where they had tickets and cash, because they were a bank. Until the bank's established here, they brought the money down to the train station to be put on the train to go to the big banks in the city, or to borrow money. It came out that way too. So they tried to break in, and they put dynamite around it, ignited it, and blew out a couple of walls. It lifted the roof, but it didn't make a dent in the safe. So they kind of miscalculated a little bit. But that would be a nice story, and I'm sure there's other stories like that. But again, it's the happiness and the joy of the travel and the freedom that this provided.